Who owns the data from your brain?
Google?
No, if I'm connected, but if I'm connected to his Neuralink, does he now own the data that comes from my brain?
A lot of people own our data.
Yeah, already.
From our brains.
Okay.
Yeah, more than you can imagine. Yeah.
We're commodities.
All right.
The fear is there's so many companies that have our data that they could easily manipulate us or blackmail us or just
It's going to be way more than a penny for your thoughts.
create some fake thing that we did that we didn't actually do and just make us disappear.
If I forget to charge it one night, do I wake up stupid again the next morning? These are my jokes, all right? Did you get my reference in the text when I said you got to be here by 1:45 Neil people time?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it a reference, or did you get my reference to racism?
That
funny.
racist reference.
How's that racist? That's you again. That's like you.
Okay, well, when I hear people time, it's usually preceded by the letter
Color people
C.
time? Color people time?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that also is a fair thing to say. Things that are accepted between cultures, not as it's like that's just the way, you know?
Yeah, it's just like island time. If you're like in the
Oh, yeah.
Caribbean or something, everybody's just laid back, and
Yeah.
which is kind of a better way of life, probably.
Because time isn't real, right? As we
Isn't
all know.
it weird how we're just like, oh,
I mean,
it's
yeah.
relaxed. Everything's
I guess,
slow, like Andy
subjectively.
Griffith.
And my son is now turned on to Bob Marley because of the movie coming out and a friend of his that listens to Bob Marley. So I like that he's changing his musical taste a little bit.
What did he normally listen to?
He just listens to rap. Well, he listens to mostly rap.
Yeah.
I even forget the names of the groups that he likes. He went
Da Baby?
Da Baby?
Yeah.
I don't know. I
I'm
think
kidding. I don't think he's prevalent now. I don't know. He got in trouble, I think. But
I
who
know
knows?
Da Baby was around a lot 3-4 years ago because it got to the point where I wrote a joke about Da Baby.
Yeah.
Because everybody was some sort of little baby, Da Baby, blah blah blah. You know, I don't remember what the joke was because it was wordplay about Da Babies.
One of my first jokes I wrote was a really bad Da Baby joke when he got canceled. They were like, Da Baby canceled. I was like, what is this? Planned Parenthood? Very bad. Very bad. Very, very, very bad.
Plan B baby.
Yeah.
So Neil, I'm trying a new thing. Either you or James, here on the Dumbest Tom in the Room. I pitched this idea a couple years ago to you, the Uninformed Information Hour.
Okay.
Which I like as a title because then I don't really know about these subjects.
Well, we're listed as entertainment anyway, so
Yes. Good.
we're not like a media
Well,
network.
does that mean we have to be entertaining? Because you know what I'm saying? We're pushing that too some weeks.
I mean, nobody watches anyway, so it doesn't matter.
That's just rude. Okay.
If you do watch, we appreciate it a lot.
Yeah, thank
Yes,
you.
wow. Thanks,
Thanks,
Neil.
man.
Thanks, Neil. When I say shit like that, he's like, no, we're monetized. We're monetized now. We're getting there, dude. Hang in there. I'm like, we're got to do something. No, we're good. And then I say one little thing, and then the truth comes out. I see.
Well, we got a lot of a little, so that's
Yes, we
Yeah.
got. We have a dedicated few.
That's right. Yeah, we're determined.
Yes. So the Uninformed Information Hour is I don't know about. I want to know some things about these topics, but I don't really. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I know. Some of my friends are way more informed than me on these subjects.
Sure.
So I want you to talk to me about Neuralink, immigration. What was the other one? Oh, RFK Jr.
Yep.
And then if we got time, the Middle East. Middle East to me, I'm sort of I can go either way on. But I want to like get in and out of these subjects and not dwell on them, but have you sort of tell me what's going on about them. You know,
Neuralink's probably the most interesting one, or at least for me to talk about.
Okay, why is that the most interesting?
It's just a brain computer interface that it's the most complex brain computer interface that's been created yet.
Right, and they started making them when? Not for Neuralink.
A few years ago. Well, they started making brain computer interfaces 20 plus years ago, I think.
Yeah, I was reading something like it was in the
maybe more than
in
that.
like late 60s. They kind of like they started it.
Yeah,
That's
maybe.
sort of where like, and then
They-
I
they've
guess
used it for
Siri
a long
counts as
time.
that too. Like that's what I was trying to talk to him about. He's like, why would we need that? We already have And like you said before, right?
Well, Siri is more of like a, I mean, I guess, in a loose term, it's like a personal assistant, but it's not a brain-computer interface.
So what does that mean, brain-computer interface?
Allows your brain to directly interface with technology. So with the idea with Neuralink is that, initially it's going to be used to help people that have paralysis, paraplegics, and or they have spinal cord damage, stuff like that.
So you can control like robotic limbs and stuff.
Yeah, or just, you can control your devices. If you can't use your arms, then you
Okay.
can control your phone and computer. And
Like if Stephen Hawking was still alive, he would be able to talk faster.
yes.
We'd be able to hit on young women.
And I don't know. I mean, I'm curious. They just started human trials, so I'm fascinated to see how that goes.
They did a monkey, right? I watched a video the other day. They done it when they first introduced it in like 2019 or 20. They have a monkey
Yeah, and they've done they've done those types of studies with
playing pong with his mind.
yeah, but they've done that before with other technologies
Oh,
that are similar. So I mean that's still incredible, but I think with a human you'll really be able to determine what you can do with it.
so the idea is what? They put a bunch of probes into the brain cells.
Yeah, I think there's 1,000. I believe there's 1,000 leads that go into the brain. So they cut about a quarter size hole in the skull, and the device it's about the size of a quarter, and it just and they have a
bald spot almost.
So they have an AI powered surgical machine that implants the leads into the brain, so it can
So it looks like the plug in the Matrix. Like,
yeah, not quite. But it looks like the leads are tiny. They're smaller than a hair, and so this machine they use, the surgical machine, it can target all the blood vessels and stuff, so it can bypass all those, and so it's a fairly non-invasive procedure, and then it'll insert all the
I don't
leads.
understand how you can say non-invasive when you just said there's 1,000 things going into my brain.
Well, less invasive than something that's. It's
using my
maybe
phone.
maybe it's the wrong word. Maybe it's more precision. It's
okay.
more precision than what we currently have had in the past with
And
these
then
types of
that
technologies.
somehow studies that somehow like
It just picks up the neuronal signals. So it whenever your neurons fire, it picks up those signals.
and we
then,
know what each neuron firing does in the brain.
I mean, they're learning a lot more about it. They
They're
don't.
trying to map it.
Yeah, they know more about regions than individual neurons. There's 80 some billion neurons in your brain, I believe. So it'd be very difficult to.
I feel like it's like they try to do it like, oh, I eat a banana and then a part of my brain lights up, and it's like, okay, this part lights up when he eats a banana. What is that?
It's
It could
more.
be-
That is how they
it's-
trained the monkey's brain. I saw it when they trained him to play Pong. They connected it, had him play with the controller, and then they watched what lit up in his brain and stuff while he moved it, and
I
then
already
they
thought of a
mapped
documentary
that.
name.
Huh?
I already thought of a documentary name for that. King Pong.
King Pong.
Come on now.
It's actually a little more specific now than that, though. They can, so with AI, so maybe they can eventually map all the neurons in the brain, since we have the AI technology. Maybe it'll do something like that. Humans can't do it, but possibly with AI.
They still haven't mapped the human brain yet.
Not the whole thing. They've mapped. I know they've mapped like a fly's brain and some smaller things. Maybe a large portion of a mouse brain. Maybe an entire mouse brain. I don't think so, but maybe.
How much are our brains like other animals' brains?
Certain animals were similar. Like mice are pretty similar to humans. Our brains. That's why we use mice for studies. Crows, I think, have similar brains to humans. They think they have like a form of self-awareness, I believe.
They're smart and they hold grudges and
Yeah,
remember-
they'll befriend you and stuff like that. Pretty interesting birds.
It
but
is interesting to realize that they're like that. Holding a grudge and resentment against people isn't a human thing.
it's kind of funny.
Yeah.
That's an advanced thing.
It's an advanced thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Advanced consciousness.
I wonder how it's beneficial. I guess you don't forget that somebody is not trustworthy
Yeah.
or not.
Chimps are the scariest when it comes to
Oh,
grudges, dude.
yeah, they'll just kill you.
Yeah. It's this documentary called Chimp Empire,
They'll rip
and
your
they
face off.
remember stuff from decades ago. It's like, that's the guy I want to kill. And then they see him in the jungle and they all just jump him and kill him, and it's like, cause something they did like 30 years ago.
They're just primitive versions of us.
Yeah.
Yeah. The thing about you were saying with identifying different regions of the brain and stuff, though, we've gotten more specific than that. So I know now with AI, they can scan your brain and show you images, and then the AI can also create an image of what it thinks you were looking at, and it's very similar. Or they can have you think about something, and then the AI can generate an image of what it thinks you're thinking of, and it's very close. Yeah.
Yeah, I did see. Musk said something about how, because what he does normally, right, is what I'm learning about him is that to advance his Mars project, he realized to advance Starlink, he realized he needed to sell a bunch of trips to space, you know?
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? To fund these things. So Neuralink, he's using sort of the idea of, it can help Parkinson's and it can help people that don't have use of their limbs and stuff like that. And then, one of the things he says it's going to be very beneficial for his vision.
Well,
helping people that are blind see and stuff like that with Neuralink. Which would that be using the same kind of technology that you're talking about? It would be able to implant the images, go in reverse, and sort of plant the images into the brain.
No, that wouldn't work that way. But and also, in order to do human studies with an invasive surgery like that, you have to have some type of medical necessity. It has to solve some medical issue to get those studies done. And then you can prove its efficacy and safety through those studies for non-medical uses in the future. Right. Like enhancements. But I don't think that technology will be like, if you and I ever have any type of a brain computer interface, I don't think it'll be like that. I think it'll be something either less invasive, maybe external.
How is this not a brain technology?
That's
interface?
Just an interface. Your thumb or your fingers are your interface with this technology. This is an extension. It's like a brain extension. It's just external.
So the idea is to take this and put it here.
Yeah, because this is a slow interface. If it was in your
isn't there anything faster than a microwave?
Well, if it was in your mind, you could do. I mean, your processing speed is so much faster than your ability to navigate with your body. So
my mind, and I think most people's minds, if it was connected to our phone, like our minds already work like, I need to check this. I need to look for this thing I wrote earlier. And it's like, and then my mind is in third grade. My mind is in traffic earlier. My mind is with a naked girl. Like your mind is like, do you want all the other thoughts you're having that aren't really like the focus of your, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like Neuralink is Musk's company he's developed a chip that goes in the brain, right?
But I think his goal is not just to, obviously to help people that have these ailments, but also I think his goal is to create a way for us to start merging with technology eventually.
Yeah. Well, the reason he started the company, according in Isaacson's book, is he was just texting or messaging and stuff one day, and he was like, "This takes too long from here to here. How do we get rid of this and just go here to that?" Yes, and it's 1,000,000 times faster. It's 1,000,000 times slower when it goes from my brain to my thumb into the device. You know what I mean? It slows it down. So in his mind, that's what made him start the company. He was like, okay, find me the best neuroscientists and some engineers, and let's get on this. And then, so that's what you're talking about. That's what he ultimately wants.
Right. Yeah, and I think this technology will be pretty amazing. I think it's gonna be a pretty big leap in that area. But
do you trust him to be the guy in charge of?
I think so.
Shit in your
brain?
I
like Elon Musk. I think he makes pretty good decisions. He's created some very impressive companies, and he's done a lot.
So all of his bad decisions have been tweets. Other than that, he's pretty good.
He's a troll. I think he likes to fuck around and be silly, and sometimes his humor is a little warped. I think he's on the spectrum too. So I think maybe his sometimes he may lack his social connection is a little different than most people. So, but I think ultimately he has pretty good intentions. I think he cares about humanity, and I think he's concerned about the future of humanity. And so I don't.
I get that impression from him too. I got buddies that are just like, nope, that's just the PR. He doesn't think anything about that. He's a Nazi, South
No, he
African
doesn't
living
have
off
to.
apartheid. Like, there's a lot of, he's a liar, blah, blah. So there's a lot of that. Like, I kind of, it's encouraging to hear somebody that I know.
Well, he has Asperger's, so he's autistic, and I think
He's got asshole burgers sometimes.
Well, sometimes, yeah. But I think also sometimes people that are on the spectrum, and I'm not an expert on this, but I know, I have friends and people that have children that are on the spectrum, and I know people on the spectrum, and I probably am too. I'm 99% predisposed to autism. I've got all the genetic markers for it. So
really,
yeah, which is strange. But I mean, and I think on some level it makes sense to me. I can see that. I can see where that would fit in, but so, I think he's probably just misunderstood a lot, or maybe he doesn't express himself in a way that a lot of people can relate or resonate with. And I think a lot of people that are on the spectrum or have Asperger's, I think they're pretty high in empathy. So and he seems to be high in empathy. He seems to really genuinely
I thought Asperger's
care.
was that it's
just autism.
Well, I know,
It's
but
a form of
it's
autism.
like one of the guys I know, this comic AJ Finney, and he talks about having it. And like when I watch him do comedy, I'm like, man, I remember talking to him about this. Like, I'm so jealous of how no matter how it's going, it doesn't
affect him.
It doesn't affect him. Like, he doesn't have it. We were talking about this feeling that you get sometimes in comedy where it hurts your feelings. When
I would say it does
doesn't
affect
work.
him. Usually those people are really sensitive and they just don't express it the same as you. Probably is probably affecting him in an extreme way, and you just don't see it. He can hide it.
Oh, he's just good at masking it that it's like, wow, everything bounces off this guy.
Well, I mean, from some of the stuff that I've read about autistic people is they're very sensitive. They just don't express it the same way. So just because you don't see it doesn't mean they're not feeling it. And I think Elon Musk sold a lot of his stuff just because he felt like he was not being a good example to people. Like he felt like
and
people
he
felt
had
like people
a son
didn't.
that became a daughter, transitioned, and that he had like the crazy black sheep person in his family that was like, you're an evil corporate blah, 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 blah. And then he took a look at himself and was a little like, you know what? He's right a little bit. Like, I don't need all this stuff. And and that's when he, like you said, started selling stuff off.
Well,
so he could
I think
sleep
it was
on a big pile of money instead in a mansion.
I think it was more like people were criticizing him because he was a billionaire and because there's poverty and all these issues we have in society, and he had all these things, all these assets, and I think he felt like if he sold all of his properties and got rid of his assets, then people would see that he's really just committed to the businesses he has and the goals he has for the future of humanity. Like he really does care. And, I think that was ridiculous. I think, maybe not the best decision, but it is a sign of empathy. If he's not empathetic, he wouldn't care. And he wouldn't say a lot of the stuff he says either. I look at a guy like Jeff Bezos, who I have nothing against Jeff Bezos.
Is it Bezos or Bezos?
Bezos, whatever. Yeah, Jeff Bezos.
Well, I mean,
he's a brilliant.
If I called you Niall, you'd be like, it's Neil.
Yeah, but you know me.
Whatever.
I don't know Jeff Bezos.
That's a good point.
But
damn it, man. You always got a quicker answer than Mike's fucking thing.
But like Jeff Bezos is a brilliant businessman. I admire him in that sense. But other than that, I don't really know anything about him, like who he is personally. I think he's kind of hard to read. I think he's very guarded and private, and that's his business, and that's fine. And it's not.
I'm listening.
But with Elon Musk, he's more open about how he feels and how he thinks about things and what his goals are.
Oh yeah, one of his goals is one of the reasons is he thinks this will be a help humans and a defense against like sort of evil AI.
He's always been.
If we're interfaced with it, that he thinks that we'll have a better chance of.
Yeah, sure. I mean, he's aware of the risks of AI, but also the benefits.
He seems like one of the most scared of it.
He's dramatic.
Because he wants to slow it down so his company can catch up.
Sure, yeah. I think there's some of that.
Really
I think there's some of that. He signed that letter, and I was like, what's this? This is just like a fear of competition. But
so they put one in a guy last month. They put a Neuralink in a guy.
Yeah.
Have you read about what they're finding from him, or what? Yeah, what do you say about that?
I said pause.
I don't think they've.
It's a young person term. You say pause when someone says something that sounds a little zesty.
Oh, okay. So he's our interpreter for young people.
Yeah, I don't
terms.
know, we don't have any young listeners either. Okay.
I'm in my late to mid 20s.
So I was thinking, I wrote some jokes about this. You want to hear a couple of my jokes? Then we'll get back to.
Yeah.
All right. The first thing they needed was a volunteer who's never read any science fiction, biblical warnings, or seen a movie. That's kind of the best joke I wrote about it. Is there a big market for brain chip?
I'm sure.
What?
Brain chip?
Yeah. Is there a big market for this? For
sure,
putting
yeah.
a chip in your brain?
Absolutely. There's a lot of.
What do you mean?
How many spinal cord injuries or paraplegics?
I think it's a tiny percent, although they get a lot of parking spots.
Well, you'd think amputees are a tiny percent. But there's like 80,000 new amputees in the U.S. every year.
Really?
Yeah. So it's not it's not a huge number, but it's not a small number. That's a pretty significant number.
You can't make a neuroscience company profitable off 80,000 people.
So that's an interesting thing with Elon is he doesn't look at profit first with his companies typically. Now once they go public, he has to, but that's like with SpaceX, that was even with Tesla early on, he was just all in. He takes a lot of risks.
Yeah, and he normally has this idea of like I'll find a commercial use because I have a greater idea for this what it's gonna be.
Right. Yeah.
And then he finds the commercial use to help fund getting to what he wants to do ultimately.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. He's like an artist who owns the label.
So will we have with the what would you do with one? Like if you had a
15 minutes, Tom.
Okay, all right. Shoot.
Well,
You're right.
That's what I was going to say earlier. I don't think that's going to be the interface that we use in the future. I think this is just so it's an early concept. I think eventually it'll be something where it's more like what Ray Kurzweil talks about. It'll be nanotechnology. It'll be some kind of nanotechnology that you can inject into your system. It'll probably enter your brain through the blood-brain barrier, and then it'll connect to your cerebral cortex.
Wow.
And then that will
It's
allow
interesting
you.
when he talks about that, and when you say things like that about nanotechnology, and then we get our nanotech guy in here, and he's like, "We're working on making a plastic thing." Right?
Yeah, but
He doesn't have the same. It's like that's not even in his wheelhouse of like, this is what we're working on. It's more like, no, we're trying to figure out how to make a metal.
We make technology so small today that you cannot see it with a microscope. You have to see it with an electron microscope. If you look at a chip on a motherboard, processor chip, that chip is so complex it looks like a city. It's just layers of
I love that.
Of circuits. It's amazing.
Like cells.
Yeah, and they're so small, they're like a few atoms wide. And they're so small that electrons jump from one atom to another and cause errors, and we have to have software that corrects those errors. That's the big problem with quantum computers, is that they're using a single atom that they've got it to a level where it's qubits are single atoms that they're using for processing, and that's why it has to be so cold. It's so sensitive, but it creates a lot of errors. So they have to have a much greater number of qubits than what we have now to make them viable.
I thought qubits was the measurement of like the Noah's Ark and stuff. They were like the measurement.
Different qubits.
They were the measurements God used, right? You needed 40 qubits by 30 qubits by whatever, right?
Different spelling.
Oh, okay, it is.
Yeah.
I like to play Qbert. Now this
Qbert was good.
Yes, right. Now, like we're saying, if you're connected to the internet, like I was saying earlier, I already have enough voices in my head. Now I need, like, the voices in my head are critical enough. Now I'm going to have YouTube comments fucking directly into my brain.
I think
I don't want that.
That's a funny way to think about it. I think a lot of times the voice in your head is not accurately articulated. I almost feel like the voice in your head is sort of translating for the silent part of your mind, which is almost like the observer.
The reptile brain.
No, not the reptile. That's kind of nonsense, I think, too.
That's what I'm trying to. That's what I'm trying to change the seat of my consciousness.
I think it's more of the higher consciousness.
That's what I mean. I'm trying to get to that, like, at all times, like where you're sitting there as the observer, watching, like, oh look, there's anger. Look, there's unsuredness. There's There's me thinking about, hey, why am I sweating? Whatever it is, you know what I'm saying? Like those kind of things is, I want to be able to shift my consciousness to there, which
I think
that's spirituality, really.
I think that quiet part of your mind is like the creative part of your mind, and I think for me that's like the more intelligent part of my mind, and then the part that translates is kind of an idiot, and then as I'm always frustrated. There's always this internal conflict with, no, that's not what I want to say. That's not what I'm trying to say. Yeah. That you're not getting it right. You know, so it's that constant battle. And I think with this kind of technology, maybe we can bypass some of that. And also, I think we'll reach a level where we can share feelings instead of just ideas. It's like, you know, an idea is not just words. An idea is a feeling. It's an intuition. It's a lot of things. And if I could just give you this whole feeling, then you'd be like, oh, yeah, I understand what you're saying.
It's funny you say, because it's the same, like thinking of like him being like, this is too slow from here to here.
Yeah.
But what you're saying is inside that feeling, that translation into what the words are is too slow.
Yeah,
like you want to speed that up.
And it's also very faulty. Like it's very difficult to articulate feelings.
Are you jealous that Elon, when he has an idea, like I'm sure you do, get 100 a week, where he's just like, can I get a neuroscientist and a thing and get this working? You know what I mean? Like you don't have people to implement all your ideas, or do you?
I'm jealous that he has the intellectual capacity to do it.
Okay, me too. Who owns the data from your brain?
Google?
No, if I'm connected, but if I'm connected to his Neuralink, does he now own the data that comes from my brain?
A lot of people own our data.
Yeah, already.
From our brains.
Okay.
Yeah, more than you can imagine. Yeah.
We're commodities.
All right.
The fear is there's so many companies that have our data that they could easily manipulate us or blackmail us or just...
It's going to be way more than a penny for your thoughts.
Create some fake thing that we did that we didn't actually do and just make us disappear.
If I forget to charge it one night, do I wake up stupid again the next morning? These are my jokes, all right? I don't trust Elon Musk not to tweet something dumb. Now I'm going to connect him to my brain? He's be putting his dumb shit right into my brain.
Just be getting constant subliminal messages from Elon Musk.
Huh? Yes.
Tesla.
Get X.
Get X.
Get on X. Keep scrolling.
That's what I feel like is already in my brain. I can't take a piss without looking at Instagram now.
Oh no, yeah,
it's a problem.
It's ridiculous.
Dude.
Yeah.
Why it's Elon, right? So why would he make it the size of a quarter, right? You'd think he'd use more of like the size of a Bitcoin.
Dogecoin.
Dumb jokes. Here we go. This is what I did. I sat around thinking about this.
Hey, AI is getting better at writing jokes now, by the way.
Huh?
AI is getting better at writing jokes now.
Oh, of course it will.
Yeah.
It's joke. I was talking about this with somebody, with Stuart, because he went to a class in Indy where the guy was teaching joke writing to people, and I was like, oh, he's giving. Somebody needs to shut this guy up. He's giving away the secrets. and Stuart was making the point, like, you can't teach someone to think like you think. And I'm like, yes, you can. Like, it's just math. Comedy writing is just math. It's just word problems.
Well, it's like anything else. It's repetition.
If it's math, I'm screwed.
It's like
it's formula. It's filling the formulas.
Everything works the same. It's repetition. Everything's based on repetition, and you're just like playing an instrument, playing guitar. You're teaching your fingers, your mind, how to connect with the instrument through your fingers through this interface,
right?
And do these specific patterns and shapes. And the more you do them, the better you get at them. Until eventually you don't have to think about it; it just happens. And the same thing with comedy. It's a style of thinking and a style of writing and really a style of articulation of ideas. And once you learn these structures and you get used to it, that's like when you speak, a lot of times you speak in a joke structure, like you speak in a comedic structure because you've done it so long, you've worked that muscle. You've like reorganized your mind to think in a very specific pattern.
Oh, that's interesting.
And so that's, so yeah, you can learn those things.
So Neuralink, you're going to get it if it comes out because you want to be connected more.
I mean, I wouldn't get an early iteration of it because I think my concern with stuff like that is it's a mechanical device that's implanted in your mind or in your brain. How long can it stay there before it has to be replaced?
The brain or the chip?
How often do you have to have surgeries to have the chip replaced?
Yeah.
You know, and what if it goes bad and it's just stuck in your head or like leaks or something happened? You know what I mean?
Of course, all that's going to happen.
Yeah, so I don't want to be first.
My Parkinson is better,
yeah.
but I can't shake the feeling that Elon Musk is watching me.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to a new subject. Speaking of
It's
that,
been 25 minutes
yeah,
now.
okay, I've already ruined the show by going too long. So like you were talking about that you think that there's a level of the spectrum, being on the spectrum, like and Musk is an example of being on the spectrum.
It's called a spectrum,
right?
Yeah.
It's autism, right? It's all right. So transitioning into our next topic, do you think that vaccines have caused more people to be smart because they have autism?
You know, that's an interesting topic, and it's so funny that we're not allowed to talk about it because it's like, why are we not allowed to question corporations? That's my big thing. Like in the medical industry, in our society, we saw what happened with COVID. We all got lied to. You know, now they're 99.9% sure it came out of a lab because there's stuff with the molecule or with the.
Does it even matter where it came from? Obviously,
it matters.
We're fucking around with diseases all over the planet. Eventually, this is going to happen.
We have nuclear weapons. Yeah, we do things that we shouldn't do. But besides all that, we should all question corporations constantly because corporations are too powerful, and they don't have our best interest in mind. Their best interests are making money. And you look at the COVID vaccine. You know, with Pfizer, it cost them $5-6 to make a vaccine, to make each dose, and they sold it for 6 times that or whatever, and they made a fortune. They made billions and billions and billions of dollars with our money. They used our tax dollars to make the thing.
But aren't they going to turn around and use that money to save us again?
Where's our cut, dude? Like,
where's your cut? You got free doses of a medicine that saved your life and your grandma's life.
My thing is that you're gonna have issues in society and disbelief of power and disbelief of our bureaucrats as long as there are conflicts of interest in the system. We've got to take the financial conflicts of interest out of our health care and out of our system, out of our health care, our food, the things that we need to survive. We've got to figure out a better way to balance these things.
We've been saying this for 50 years, and we're not doing it. So
well, this is the time that we can do something because we are so connected.
This is always the time.
But regardless of that, the thing with the vaccines, they cause autism or they don't cause autism. You know, there's a lot of studies that show that the genes that cause autism are they're already there when you're born. So my question is this: I have most of those genes.
Can't they just shut those? Can you shut a gene off?
They can do some of that stuff now, but it's not quite on that level. In a few years they'll probably be able to do anything with your genes. Turn them on, turn them off, add new genes.
Can
modify
they make them stop getting holes right here?
Well, they can.
I knew you were going to do that. I knew it was going to genes.
Make it more comfortable. Yeah.
When you said earlier, you said amputee numbers. I was surprised Tom didn't say, we got to cut those numbers.
Oh, how did I miss
that?
We do got to cut those numbers in half.
That's funny. But here's a good here's a thought. What if the people that develop autism, they do have the genes for autism, but maybe something else triggers the genes? Because just because you have the genes doesn't mean the genes are active or the genes are what's the word, like turned
dormant
on.
Right.
So that could be a thing. We just don't know. And I think vaccines are great. I'm thankful for vaccines. I don't want to die of smallpox or polio or whatever. There's so many diseases that we've prevented through vaccines, but a lot of weird stuff's happened through vaccines too. There's money involved.
There has to be side effects to take.
Yeah, and there's a component to vaccines. There has to be a toxin, some kind of toxic element inside of a vaccine to create an immune response. And I think that's the big thing with vaccines is what are they using to create the immune response, and how dangerous is that to humans? And a lot of the times they just don't know for a long time till they do studies. I'm sure there's a ton of stuff that we're doing right now that are going to give a lot of us cancer one day. And then 50 years from now, they'll be like, I can't believe they used to do those things.
Well, they already are doing. Obviously, the WHO just said a couple weeks ago that the cancer rates over the next 50 years are going to
Yeah,
Like
young people
600 times. You know what I'm saying?
So so there's we'll
How do
find
they
out a lot
know
of this
that?
stuff.
Did Bayer sponsor the studies?
But
They own the
there's just
food and the medicine. That
Yeah.
can't be good. That can't be good.
I go back to the thing I always say: if there's power involved, there's corruption involved, and when you have organizations that have too much power, and you have conflicts of interest where you have bureaucrats who can be rewarded for doing favors for corporations, they're going to do those things.
But what I'm saying is, if let's say worst case scenario, vaccines have led to an increase in autism. So should the vaccines get credit for creating super geniuses like Elon Musk and
more.
and Neil Hoover and you know what I'm saying, like these people, like
Well, maybe we should figure out what the exact mechanism was that activated those genes, and maybe we can all use it.
yeah. Well, we don't need to. We'll just have to put Neuralink in. So my point is why I was using that to transition is RFK Jr. Right?
Well, I was going to go into that too.
So that's right. So that's the other thing I wanted to talk to you about, because now like he just had a Super Bowl ad that I didn't see that
Kennedy.
and then
it was a good ad.
and
actually.
I saw a news story on it today where they just keep referring to him as anti-vaxxer RFK Jr.
I didn't even know that.
And so it's like that's who they, and you know they're pointing out that the Kennedys are against him. So I've seen sort of this stuff about anti RFK. When I see him talk on TikTok, was basically where I've seen him talk, he's one of these guys where I'm like, holy shit, this guy's different. He's got so much about him that I like.
Yeah.
But I also have friends again that I love and respect that are like, no, dude, this guy's a crazy person and blah blah blah. And I don't know. I don't know who to trust. My feelings or this video that I watch of him and enough interviews with him that I feel like I have some sort of level of what his personality is. Or do I trust the people that just hate him? So and I feel like you are one of these people that one, like him, and two, have probably looked into it a little bit.
A reason to.
Yeah. So I'll transition right into that. But I want to say that I love science and technology. It's always fascinated me, and I think it's a real shame that we've taken this thing that we should all trust, and it should be, the science is one of those areas that it explains how things work, and it explains why things are the way they are. At least it points us in the right direction.
Or tries to.
And it tries to. Yeah, and it should be something, and typically scientists have all just loved science. They're all curious people who just want to know more about how things work. And
I think it's mostly people that's just their job. There's a few. There's like, it's like,
But I think
but they
people
get
that go
into
into
it for a
science,
reason.
they're inherently curious humans. And I think science has always been it's been one of those fields where it's like, it's been neutral. It's always been away from politics, and not always, but I mean, for the most part, it's been separate. It's been like where you go for information. Like, I want to know exactly how this thing works. What's
When
the
it's done
mechanism
right.
here? Yeah, and you can trust it. It's always been a trusted, like a morally ethical part of society that we all have faith in, and we should have faith in it. Right. And when we've allowed corporations and government to corrupt one of our most sacred institutions, it just pisses me off, man. It really upsets me. And yes, question corporations. They don't have your interest in mind. And I'm not saying that all corporations are bad. There's a lot of good companies out there, and there's a lot of good people in companies. And I'm a business guy. I've owned corporations, but there is a thing when power reaches a certain level, the human component becomes the least important aspect of it. And I don't. That's a problem. We have a fundamental problem with that in our society that we need to correct. So I think that's a shame, and I think that's where RFK comes in. I think he's not an anti-vax guy. He's not against vaccines. I think he's against some of the things that have been used in the past in vaccines, maybe some of the ways that vaccines have been used as the way people have been used to study different drugs and vaccines in the past.
I've seen him repeatedly say, I'm not an anti-vaccine guy. And then
he's not. But
he does talk about, like, nobody will debate him about it. Nobody will debate him.
Right.
And nobody will.
And
why is that? Why will no? Is it because what's their reasoning for not debating him?
Well, I think he's got a lot of good points. And I think he's a very reasonable person, and he's also, he's gone against a lot of corporations, on corruption.
Right. Plus, with his family history, I understand him questioning shots.
Yeah, that's great. That's a good one. You should write that one down. But no, the reason I like him is because he's an anti-power guy, but he's also a good businessman. He's worth $40 million. He's a successful guy. And
what was his business?
Well, he's an attorney, right?
I don't know.
And he's also a Kennedy, so he's just
he's doing all right.
Yeah,
they abandoned him. He's like Tom Brady. They don't talk to him.
Yeah, some of them.
Not Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers.
It's all about money always. Everybody's going to support who's in their best financial interest. And there's a lot of corruption in our society. And when and the more money that's involved, the more possibility for corruption.
So they killed his dad, his uncle, and his cousin.
Yeah, and they want to kill him, I'm sure. Yeah. Anybody that stands up against power, you're taking a chance. There's a lot of people. I mean, Joe Rogan's probably in somebody's crosshairs. It's anybody that allows people to speak. If you're taking a diverse audience of people that are experts in different fields, but they have something that maybe they want to say something that
that's why I thought Obama wasn't for real.
Oh yeah.
What do you mean?
Well, he's a politician.
Because I knew if he was really going to make a difference,
well, he wouldn't
have made it.
He wouldn't have won. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's true. Yeah. So I think it's good to have people that go against corporate narratives and
so that's what that's what draws you to him more than anything.
Yeah, because he's going against the grain in a time when you need to.
Right.
We can clearly see the level of corruption in our society, and when you have someone that's in a position where they're capable of substantially speaking out against that corruption, then yeah, they're going to be a target of power. They're going to be a target of assault, and if they can see it through and they can withstand that pressure, then I'm going to support them. Because
do you understand some of the things that they come at him about? Do you understand what people don't like about him? Or
I mean he's bad for business.
What do you mean?
He's bad for business. If you're speaking up against what corporations are doing and the collusions between politicians and corporations, then you're affecting people's income. You're affecting people's fortunes, and there are fortunes that have been made. And if there's a big stream of cash coming at somebody, and you're going to block that stream on that level, you're an enemy. Like they want to do anything they can do to stop you and silence you.
Yeah, I feel like he would crush both of the candidates in a debate.
Yeah, he would. Yeah, he's an intellectual guy. And
for a guy who seems like he's struggling to talk with every word, he sure won't shut up.
He has a disability. Yeah.
Oh, he does?
Yeah, he's got some kind of a neurological.
So I can't make fun of him about his voice because it's a disease. I don't care.
Yeah, he speaks funny.
Well, I have empathy.
But he's very articulate, even with his speech issue. He's still a sharp guy. I mean, he's still an old dude, but he's much more.
He's in his young 60s, right? Or is he older
than
that?
60s.
I think he's in his 60s, maybe late 60s. How old is he?
Let's see, age.
Probably 68 or something.
He's 70.
He's 70. Okay.
Yeah.
He's in pretty good shape for his 70s.
He's in great shape for 70. But also, he is in great shape cognitively. He's very sharp. So I would vote for him. I'm going to vote for him.
Compared to our other candidates, he's a spring chicken.
Yeah, yeah, and he has good ideas, and he's only going to be there for 4 years. So at the most 8. Yeah, and if he he very likely won't get elected. But if he can, then
who would he steal more votes from?
I think both. I think the independent party is growing. I think the independents are 40-some% of the population now, of the voting population. Bless you.
He actually said that I saw him in an interview where he said independents are actually a larger party than either party.
Yeah, if all the independents voted for him, he would win. Because he's going to get some of the other votes too. It's just people are so...
He does sound like Batman too, right? He's got that little...
We're great at propaganda.
Yeah?
You know,
How do we know he's not really good at propaganda? Like, are we being fooled by his?
Well, he's just one guy, you know, and he's
Is he?
Yeah.
There's not a whole movement behind him.
I mean, we're starting to build a movement behind it, but we're part of the movement. It's like if you want to say a grassroots movement, that's a big one, you know, and
Do you think he'll gain momentum like Bernie Sanders had?
That worked out.
Maybe. I don't think it'll be on that level. It's possible.
It actually kind of worked out.
I mean, he's doing well.
Because what it did was if you look at it from a totally cynical side,
Sure.
what it did was it built up a huge group of people in this country that were filled with hope that they could make a difference. And then they watched that just get taken from. So what it is a generation of people had their hope fucking destroyed.
Yeah, because Bernie Sanders is such a part of the establishment. He's just a real politician, and I feel like Bernie Sanders is genuinely a good guy. Like, I think he wants good things. I don't agree with a lot of his ideas because I don't think they're implementable. I don't think they're.
And you think RFKs are implementable?
I do, because he understands business, and he also likes business. He
has a libertarian side to his business.
Sort of. I mean, he's a reasonable person. He understands that, you know, a lot of the things that make our society so good is our ability to be so productive. You know, and so you have to have. There's a thing about capitalism that creates competition and productivity. It's a productivity machine.
Yeah.
And that's
drives
good.
Innovation and ideas.
Yeah, it's great for that. It's
until it doesn't, until it's all squashed.
Well, if it's not regulated properly, it becomes something else. It starts to become it becomes a corporatocracy where you have these corporations that just a few companies that control everything, and then
including the regulatory boards.
Yes, yeah. So and he sees that problem, and so a guy like him
doesn't see that problem.
Well, he admits that problem.
Yeah,
and he identifies the problem. Yeah. He acknowledges the problem.
He's not part of the problem.
And he wants to fix it. And so me personally, the way I look at these issues, I think the biggest issue in our society is poverty. I think if you want to have a better society, you have to eliminate poverty. You want to have every member of society, which are the most valuable parts of the society, because we are the society, doing well as possible. And so if you eliminate poverty, then you can start figuring out how to use people in society, how to encourage people to be the best version of themselves they can be. And I think he sees that. And I think in order to do that, you can't just do that instantaneously. You have to. We have a very complex.
We have to tear down this structure and rebuild.
You don't have to tear it down.
Time.
You just have to reorganize it. You know, and it's a very complex, fragile structure too. So you have to be careful about how you do it. So it's got to be incrementally changed over a long period of time. So you say these are all. I think it's like
we should pick we should decide what our core values are and our core integrity as a country, and then come from that on as many of the things we do as possible.
Yeah,
and we don't have sort of a shared.
That's what they want.
Core of integrity about ourselves as a nation. So how can we build a society that goes towards that?
Well, it's because there's so much. It's because there's so many financial conflicts within our system. So it's hard to know what someone's telling you if it's true or not. Are you telling me this because it's good for me? Or are you telling me this because it's good for your business? Are you telling me this because it's a good way for you to take out another business and control a market share? Or are you telling me this because it's really going to make my life better? And we don't know.
Well, I think the same thing about Musk too, because you got to worry that too.
Yeah, for sure. There's some of that. Yeah, there's some of that there. And so I think a guy like RFK he's more of the type of person who thinks sort of like I do. Like if I were going to solve these problems, then I would say, okay, we have to eliminate corruption. We have to figure out ways to start restructuring the government and corporations, and we can do that slowly. And then you also have to say, if we're going to eliminate poverty, we can't just say there's no more poverty, and you can't just start taking from people and giving it to other people. There's not enough money anyway to do that currently. You have to create systems and structures that work to eliminate the problems, and you start one day at a time. You say, every decision we make, these things that are the most important things to us are going to be part of these decisions. If I make this decision, is it going to move these things forward in the right direction? And
you think RFK, that's where he's...
I think so.
And what can we look for in the people in the power structure that doesn't want his voice heard? What can we look for over the next few
Why
months?
did they not want to hear him?
Well, because
that's the question you ask yourself.
Yes, but what I'm saying is, what will we start to see from the corporate state sort of to defend itself against his movement? Will it just be floods of like, he's a crazy anti-vaxxer? Like, what are we getting
mostly
ready?
that, because
What
that's
are we
the
getting ready
biggest
to
thing
watch?
they have against him. They'll be like, he doesn't care about your health care, your children's health, and he doesn't care about our people, and he's not going to help you. He's going to make you sick. It's going to be that same rhetoric that you hear. It's just, and it's going to be lots of it because they have a lot of power. Because you've got the most powerful companies in the world that own a lot of our media, and they're going to be really pushing these narratives because that's where the money's at. Because it's corporate warfare, and so
That's what I mean. So as the campaign gets closer, like if I feel like there should be a few things that if I'm looking for, I'll start to see all the time. So I'll know, oh, okay, this attack is dismissible because I knew this was coming.
yeah.
Which, by the way, totally off subject here. There's a guy running for.
It's been another 15 minutes.
Okay, there's a guy running for office somewhere around here in Greensboro, like some sort of for education or something. His name is Goebel, Goe.
Oh, wow.
BBEL.
That's dangerously close.
It's one letter off of the Nazi propagandist, and he's got I noticed his signs are like up to right before the Jewish temple's property starts, and then around the other side right after, and it seems very.
I mean, this
That's
is his
his name.
name.
That is his name.
It's not like he's did that on purpose.
It made me go like, that sounds like the fact that you knew it right away too. Made me be like,
is he? I mean, do you know anything about him?
I know nothing about him except his name is one of the most horrific fucking Nazis ever, and he was the head of their propaganda. Like, I had to look that up because I was like, that's a Nazi name. Why would it seems weird that this is all in this Jewish neighborhood?
Well, a German name.
Yeah.
Or I mean,
still, if my last name's Hitler, I'm not fucking running for office and putting my signs up next to the Jewish fucking community center. I'm just not doing it, especially now.
well, if your name's Hitler, you should probably just change your name.
Yeah, they all did that.
If my name was
already.
Goebel, I would fucking change my name or
He
whatever.
did. He took a letter out.
He took
sounds
one
like.
letter out. Anyway, it's
Different branch.
okay. I know you're very sympathetic to the close to Nazis. If you're a Nazi, you're close to Nazi sympathizer.
Not at all. Not even slightly.
The record show.
And I have a
Let the
German
record show
name.
that he was standing up for the close to Nazi. Okay, so he's a close to Nazi sympathizer in this scenario.
Interesting fact about my name. I have a German name. My name used to be Huber, like Huber. But my family moved here 275 years ago or something. So before the country was way before all that stuff happened, and our family were pacifists. They were like an early form of Quakers.
Oh yeah, they were the original nonviolence guys, Quakers.
Yeah,
they were strict to it.
yeah. So where I grew up in
yeah,
Asheboro, North Carolina, a small town. If you go back and look at the historical records of Asheboro, even during like the Civil War, we were, or not we, but the people in that town were against that war. They didn't want to be a part of it, and I think 15 people were executed in that town because of that.
So RFK Jr., you're saying good.
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Let's see if I got any jokes here.
Good option.
I can understand during early COVID testing, they did make you put your head back and to the left. He doesn't think COVID came from the Wuhan market, right? He thinks it came from the book depository building. That's not what your country can do for you, but what TikTok can do for your campaign. That's his slogan.
Hey.
Yeah. All right, that's all I got on RFK Jr. All right, next topic. Oh, no, I got mushrooms, but that's for another day. So we did Neuralink. We did the other thing. Oh, immigration. There's an immigration crisis at the border. We're cutting out Middle East. Unless you got a lot you want to tell me about Middle East.
So
The immigration problem is a huge crisis at the border. My theory is liberals should start pretending that the immigration crisis is a myth, and we should just use that same thing that they used about the environment and global warming that's been used for 30 years. We should flip that and be like, well, that's not even a thing. Immigration is not real.
So it is concerning that so many people are flooding into the country illegally, and there's not really a whole lot of oversight on who's coming in, because there is a lot.
Why is that a problem?
Well, there's a few problems. There's some major global conflicts right now, and there are people that hate us, and rightfully so. We've murdered a lot of their families,
right?
Or at least helped other people do it, and so we have real enemies.
But we don't do that anymore.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize that stopped. But
Come before you a changed America.
I feel a lot better.
Yeah.
We're totally good now. Okay.
So, that's a big concern. And there's also a concern too. It's like, when somebody really likes to fight, they're like, go ahead and hit me, give me a reason.
Right.
And I feel like there's some of that happens in society with power, where you have the group that wants the thing that the other people have, maybe the weaker people have, but they can't just go take it, so they have to have a reason. So they let something happen to give them the reason. Like leaving weapons in a place for
Right.
for your enemy to use against you, that sort of thing. And so I think there's
putting bricks out when
there's a risk
coming.
of that. Yeah. So exactly that sort of thing. And so there's a risk of that, but also, there's a lot of people. We can't afford the people we have currently. And I think we need to restructure our currency, or the way currencies work, the way that we value currencies. And I've talked about that before, but currently we can't afford all these new people. And then there's a lot of political things happening.
Have we historically been able to afford them in the past when there's been immigration?
Well, not really.
But we've adapted and become a better country for it.
Have we? Right now the economy is horrible. Right now we're all being gouged and price gouged, and the economy's being really squeezed, and I feel like we're headed towards a big recession. I think working class people are really suffering today. I think they barely afford to survive.
And that's immigrants' fault?
No, that's just our government's fault.
Okay.
And our fault for not being better stewards of our resources and our ability to elect. We're one of the few places in the world you can actually make a difference individually if we all work together, but we're so divided. We let people divide us over nonsense, and so I think that's a big concern is the expense, the burden that's going to be on the society. So, because if I were in a position of power and I wanted to control a society, I would want them to be as weak as possible, so they had to depend on me. And so if I can take away their resources, then suddenly they depend on me for everything they need. And
I don't want that.
I don't want that either.
No, I mean, I wouldn't want that if I was leading the country, I wouldn't want them all dependent on me. It's like,
oh no, I wouldn't want that as a leader. But if I wanted power, that's a good way to get power. The king doesn't want competition, and so.
Well, if the competition comes down to the winner is who gives people the most, then you're eventually not going to win that battle anyway.
Well, if it takes away from everybody, I think, the less resources you have, the less ability you have to make a difference.
So you're saying that we need some sort of, I don't understand, like, we need an immigration policy like that, or
well, I think we
got to
have
fix everything and then that'll take care of itself.
I think we have immigration policies that need to be enforced. I think we need to prevent people from just flooding in. Like, we can't accommodate you. The rooms are full right now. So I think
are they?
They are. Yeah. Right now, currently, the way the current system's set up, yes.
In proportion, is this worse than it's been in like 1900 or 1880? Well,
it's better than that. Yeah, obviously things improve
proportionally,
but not instantaneously. We can't just take in millions of people suddenly, and when we can't.
Haven't we in the past, percentage-wise, taken in huge numbers of people?
Yeah, but a lot of those people aren't doing well.
Away a lot of people. Too.
A lot of those people are still really poor, like in poverty. And a lot of
all the Germans that came here, all the
we
Irish
have a lot
that
of people
here?
that live in poverty. Well, that's different. That was when you're building the country. That was a different thing.
We're still building the country,
but now we have an established society. Yeah, we're still building and evolving and changing, but we have all these problems with our structure that we need to fix. And if we don't fix them, this influx of new people is just gonna put more strain on us. There's no other option. So
why can they not be beneficial? And they help us build the next thing, and that's what we need is an influx of people willing to take the lowest paying, hardest working jobs to help rebuild the next thing. Just like we've all. I mean, I don't know. I'm just like I said, I'm the dumbest guy right here. I don't know anything.
Well, we've given away a lot of our best jobs, a lot of our working class jobs have been outsourced, because of cheap labor, and maybe we could work on bringing back some of that. That would be a good way to help solve some of these issues. But also, I think we do need to enforce our border laws, our immigration laws right now, because we need to control the influx of people. But also, if for me, what I think we should do is we always look at the symptoms of these problems. It's like my bit about small towns. It's like, the media tells us that small towns are experiencing high rates of crime and drug abuse. There's a drug epidemic that's ravaging people in small towns. Like, no, small towns are ravaging people in small towns. They suck. Right. Yeah, there's a disproportionate number of poor people in small towns using drugs because the drugs are better. Yeah, because they're suffering.
Than life.
Yeah, it's the
so
drug
you're saying
use,
we need to give away more drugs at the border?
Yes. No, drug use is not the problem. It's a symptom of the problem. The people suffering is the problem.
Yeah. Yes.
Why are the people suffering? It's because you work a shitty job and you spend you commit 40 hours of your life to this thing to contribute to society, and that's not enough to pay your basic needs. That's fucked up, man. That's not okay. So we fix those problems, and then you start saying, well, why are people flooding into our country? What's wrong over there? What's the problem there next door? It's the same piece of land. What's the problem? Well, there's a lot of corruption. There's a lot of problems. Actually, our drug laws create a lot of the problems that are pushing people in our country. We're creating a lot of those problems, and we've created those problems throughout the past. So the way to fix that problem is to start helping those nations, start helping our neighbors. Instead of sending $80 billion to Ukraine or whatever, you send it to Mexico or Central America or countries that are suffering, and not just send it to them. Help them create new infrastructures. Help them do things that we want to do here, and we use these impoverished nations to figure out better ways to develop these structures and infrastructures and these things that we need. And by implementing those things there, it helps their lives, it makes them better allies, better neighbors, more advanced. It enhances their societies and their economies, and in return, it helps us solve problems, and we can implement those ideas here.
And sounds like a lot of work.
It is a lot of work. That's why it's just easier to blow people up and break shit.
Yeah.
And it's a lot easier.
Immigration is a weird. I know people are passionate about it and everything. I just don't care. I don't. Well, I know it's shitty of me to not care, but it's like I don't want to look into it. I just want to assume whatever Sean Hannity says is wrong, and I'm on the other side.
Well, it's like what you said earlier. It's like what you said earlier. We should look at the top things that we care about,
right?
As a society and even as a civilization, and we should say, what are these major problems? And poverty is going to be number one across the board.
But you say we don't have enough money, but now you're sending $80 billion to Mexico to build their economy.
Money is a construct, and not just sending money, investing money.
Okay.
Sending money for destruction is not an investment. That's just profitable. There's companies making a lot of money off that. That money's coming right back to these companies.
So I was thinking about immigration, and you know how a liberal argument can be to conservatives, like, why don't you just read the Statue of Liberty, right? It says, bring us your huddled masses and your poor. Like that, or like, or what else would, that's how our country was founded, on immigration, right? We're a country of immigrants, and now you want to stop immigration? That's maybe what, like I was thinking, the Native Americans, ask them how that went, if you can find any, right? So that was the problem, right? This is the left-wing, crazy, liberal natives that welcomed people, helped them build their places, taught them how to put fish and make corn, and nobody stopped them. They were helpful. And if they wouldn't have been, if they'd had more strict conservative immigration policies, then genocide wouldn't have happened to Native Americans. But nobody would listen to Chief Fuck Them Whites.
Well, I think something like 90% of the Native Americans in all the Americas got wiped out by our diseases or by European diseases.
So you're saying Mexicans could be bringing bad diseases?
No. I think the Americas were a much cleaner society. I think the dirty Europeans came over and everybody died. We killed them just by being here.
Yeah.
We just came over and they just died.
Wow.
I think there's some advantage. I think there's some physiological advantage of being, of living closer to the equator and having darker skin and having more sunlight. I think there's a physiological advantage to that, because that's where we all come from. We all come from Africa. We all come from the center of the planet the most sun-rich environment, and I think there were likely advanced civilizations in the past that got wiped out, and I think that's what we should be looking at today. I think we should be concerned about the fragility of just humanity as a whole. Like, we've been here for over 300,000 years, we know of, for certain. There's why, and in the past 5,000 or 6,000 years, look what we've accomplished. It's pretty amazing, and there are things like in ancient Egypt and around the equator that there are technologies, or there are technologically advanced structures, or at least structures that required some highly advanced technologies to be created that we have no record of or no history of. It that could have been 20, 30, 50,000 years ago. We have no idea. There's no way to know.
Yeah, I feel like there was other civilizations.
Yeah, it's possible, and we should be concerned about that sort of thing too, because that could be us. And I think
not could be. It's gonna. That's the point. It's gonna be.
Well,
us.
not necessarily. We may develop the technology to prevent those things, and we're trying to. But I think that should be the biggest focus. And when you talk about like immigration and stuff, yeah, the biggest focus should be humanity. Those are human beings.
So what's the difference
like
between the two parties on immigration? What's the difference?
Well, I don't think the parties really. I don't care about the parties.
That's what the noise is, and that's what.
Yeah, but the parties
just
the parties are like it's like professional wrestling. They're just pretending like they're enemies because they all have the same goals. There's a few politicians on both sides that are probably decent people that care, but they don't have any power. The ones that have power are the ones that are making a lot of money because they're corrupted by corporations that want more power.
How have our leaders in the past times that this has happened, during the potato famine, or during when all the Germans were coming, or when all the Jews were coming to the United States, like all these times of mass immigration that we've had, they've had to pass law. They passed a law in 1903 that said you can no longer, if you're Asian, you can no longer immigrate to the country. So we've passed.
How many people do you know that lived in 1903 though?
None, but we had those
policies. The information that we have from from our history is all what the most powerful people of that time wanted us to know.
No, we wrote specific laws about immigration through time. So how have they been effective? How did they work? Can we go back to those laws and be like, let's use the same argument? It's the same fucking arguments.
Yeah, but
so how did they solve it then?
But you're still looking at arguments that are based on symptoms instead of solutions. And so it's like throwing people in jail for drugs or for crime in poor communities and stuff. It's like that's not. These are just human beings like everybody else. We're all the same. Why are these humans acting this way? Well, because they're suffering. It's like if you have an abscess in your mouth, then today it's just a toothache. In 5 years, you might die from it. And it's the same thing in our society. When you have these impoverished communities, you have areas where you have excessive amounts of violence and drug abuse and problems, there's nothing wrong with the people. There's something wrong with their circumstance. So you heal the problem, you heal the people. If you have people flooding in your country, like what's happening over there, guys? Like we need to figure out.
Saying is it necessarily what's happening there, or maybe
it's what's happening there?
Well, or we have a country that they're like, that looks fucking way better. Let's go there.
Yeah, because it sucks right there. Why does it suck there? It shouldn't suck there.
Well, I mean,
it's part of the same land.
Because of our foreign policy.
A lot of it, yeah.
So you're saying we fix that, we stop immigration.
We take a lot of poor societies and we scrape all their resources from them because they can't defend themselves against us.
Right.
And that's an inconvenient truth about humanity. The more powerful, the powerful members of society will take advantage of the least powerful members of society. And if you have resources that we want, we just take them, and we do it through conflicts, or we create an issue, or we find a symptom, we find something you're doing that we don't like, which is probably the result of suffering. And instead of saying, "Oh, why are you guys so upset? Why are you hurting so bad? Let's help you out. Let's try to. Oh, you guys have resources too. We can help you." Develop these resources, and we need these resources, so we'll work with you to help you develop these resources, and then you can actually support your whole society on these resources, because those resources are the most valuable resources. We just take it, It's my war bid. It's about, it's all wars are just wars against poor people. It's like, I heard those poor people that really hate us. Let's get them. I was like, yeah, of course they hate us. They're poor. Poor people hate a lot of shit, especially if they're not being helped. And why do you want to fight them anyway? They're poor. Aside from their natural resources and weapons profits and spreading democracy.
Right.
It's just a real authoritarian way to spread democracy, right? You give us all your shit and be free.
We freed you from your limbs and your life and
yeah,
your family and your house and your village.
Mission accomplished.
Yeah, so it's and those things are those are factual truths of how humanity works as a whole.
This is my problem with things like immigration. Like all this talking we're doing about it, and there's no. I feel
because we collectively have
any
to
more
do this.
informed, and I don't feel any more like here's what we need to do.
Well, because collectively we need to all have the same goals. We need to elect people that will push back against power, like people like RFK, who's not against business and success and prosperity, who actually wants more of that. But he is against corruption and he's against monopolies and the manipulation of people to steal their resources. And that's how you start. You start incrementally.
So
what
you're
can
saying
we do
you don't
today?
when you look at our leaders, when you look at the think tanks on the left or the think tanks on the right or the blah blah blah, nobody has an immigration solution that you're like, we should do that. Both sides to you are full of shit, and both sort of.
I'm sure there are a few
both
people
sort of
that do.
speaking heads of both sides. Nobody is offering a solution except they're doing it wrong.
Well, the most powerful ones are the only ones you hear because they have the loudest voice.
Man, it's everybody. It's everybody
And
online. It's every podcast. Every newscast is about the crisis at the border and this and that. We got to do something. It's a catastrophe. Like they just keep the words they use are just we got to do something. And but nobody has a solution.
We need to elect people that, number one, care about people.
Yeah, we're not doing that.
We're not doing that. They need to care about people more than money.
We're not doing that.
They need to care about people. They need to care about.
I had a guy tell me when I was in a cab somewhere. He was like, I was in Canada or something. And he was talking about being all around the world. And he was like, the problem is none of the leaders in any of these countries care about the people.
No, they don't. They're all. I think a lot of our most powerful leaders are sociopaths.
Well, the good news is the people make up for that by only caring about themselves. So
what?
The people make up for that by only caring about themselves.
Well, there's a lot of that too.
Because it's the same shit that we have in here about not giving a fuck that reflects to our nation, right? So it's just a reflection of who we are as individuals.
Selfish. We're all selfish.
Yeah. So I selfishly don't care. I say let them in if they want to come in, if they want to compete for work, if they want to be poor and live on the street, whatever your choice is. I don't.
Well,
it feels a little grapes of wrathy to me. Like
I do think we have a pretty amazing construct that we've created, and we should not tear it down. It's a good construct. It's one of the best ones.
But part of the construct that makes it work is bringing in these people that want to work harder than us to make it better.
I don't think they want to work harder than us. I think we're just tired of being fucked. I think the people that live here are tired of committing 40 to 80 hours of their life per week to something that's not going to meet their basic needs.
So stop cheerleading fucking patriotism and putting your money into the military and pretending that this is.
Well, we also do need a
there's
very
all the
powerful
money
military too, because there's no global outside of the country you live in. There's no other global thing that. Like a global governance that helps manage conflict. If you're not powerful, somebody else is going to take your shit. That's just how it works. That's one of the flaws of humanity, and we've got to fix that. And I don't think there should be a global government. I think government should be smaller.
Why?
Well, it's just power. That's the way power works. Power is like gravity, and the more mass it has, the more strong that pull is. And I think with societies, I think everything should be regulated from the bottom up and managed from the bottom up. And I think because you want to empower the individuals. Because I think every individual has something to contribute, and I think, they do. You know, we're all pretty amazing things. We're all
using words
conscious
like all,
beings.
I mean, you're meeting more people than me.
Some people are less advantaged, yeah.
but
they shouldn't be suffering because they're less advantaged. You know, that's a real terrible way to look at it. You know, that's how people. That's what happens. That's what causes genocides. It's like these people have nothing to give us, so we're just going to kill all of them and just take what they have.
Is that what I said?
Well, that's what that leads to. That's what causes. That's what's happening in Gaza. I know people want to say that, but that's what's happening. It's the people in Gaza are impoverished people. They have nothing to contribute, but they have resources, and they have a big chunk of land there that's valuable. If you can just eliminate those people, that problem goes away, and you just take that land and all those resources, and then make it whatever you want it to be. You know, and that's happened. That's what's created all societies throughout history. Why would people stop doing it suddenly? They're the same people. We're the same people. And maybe we'd reached a level in the past when, you know, things like the Great Pyramids, these amazing constructions were created, these unimaginable feats of engineering, and maybe those societies had a better society. Maybe those societies were actually more functional, and maybe they worked together in a more harmonious way. That's why they were able to create those amazing things. And that was certainly, some of that was done before the Egyptians that we know. Right. You know, those weren't Bronze Age primitive things. Those were highly advanced accomplishments, and so maybe we'll reach that again. And technology does have this decentralizing effect where it seems to empower people more and create more opportunities, and I think that's possible, but also it could be used against us. So I don't know, you know, a lot of those things, but I think if we all collectively work together, then we can create a better future for humanity. I think we do. I think we've gotten way better. This conversation couldn't have happened even 30 years ago, probably. Not this available, you know, not on this level. So, you know, I'm hopeful that these things will improve, but, you know, I don't know. I just know that a lot of the people that that control these things will kill you because it's beneficial to them.
Would you ever run for office, Neil, in anything? I
mean, maybe. I don't know. I mean, I would do it when if I'm older, probably I would do it if I could. I don't think I'd want to, but I would do it.
That means you'd be good at it. I feel like the people who want to do it are the ones who are kind of psychos.
I just want things to get better for people. You know, I want people's lives to be better. I just want people to stop suffering. And I think we can't fix it today, and maybe we can't fix it in 20 years, but we can make it better today.
By doing what?
Small changes.
Give me one thing I can do.
Okay, one thing we could do in our society is we could say we're going to create a subsidy program where, you know, if you contribute a certain number of hours a week into the tax system, that you're working somewhere, doing something to contribute to society. You're giving up your time to invest in the society. There's value in that. We're going to create some alternative currencies that you will receive every month as a thank you collectively for your contribution to society. And eventually those things will amount to something that will meet your basic needs.
Okay.
And I think that's doable. I think we can do that. I think we can do that today. But it just it's not a priority.
It's like doing chores around the house, and then you get an allowance.
Yeah, or like my dad working his ass off for his whole life, you know, working 40 to 60 hours a week, doing really difficult work that's physically demanding, it's destroying his body, and he's barely able to survive. And the same thing with my mother. You know, she was a professional sewer. You know, she sewed commercial. She was a commercial level sewer in upholstery, so she sewed furniture, and that's really demanding.
But they get
work.
health care once they reach a certain age. After a lifetime of putting in for society, they get free health care.
Yeah, because from the people who made them need the health care.
Yeah, their health care is shitty. I mean, health care.
That's my health care plan.
Health care used to be decent, actually, but they used to get good health care back in the 80s and 90s.
All right, we got to let Hooper in.
Thanks, Clintons.
So, yeah. So I appreciate you coming in.
Yeah, it was fun, man.
Yeah. So thanks, man. I
dude.
enjoy talking to you all the time.
Sure, anytime.
You definitely always make me feel like the dumbest Tom in the room.
Not at all. No.